Today at Fixed, I'm going to be showing you how I correct some of the issues that people create when they try to repair their watch on their own. This watch in particular, I believe, had a swollen battery. Here's what we're going to be replacing it with a new one and a new screen. It most likely popped the screen out, broke the screen, so my customer that sent this to me tried it on their own following a YouTube tutorial that wasn't really that good. They ended up doing some damage, probably because they weren't watching one of my videos. In fact, they said that if they had watched my videos, they probably wouldn't have damaged it. So one of the first things that we have to do is basically remove the internals of the watch, because the flex cables are soldered onto the back. So I'm going to carefully lift up the flex cable as to not scratch the Taptic engine. I really don't care about that flex cable in particular because it's damaged. Next, we'll go ahead and take out all the screws. Some of the screws are a little harder to get at. They are all different, so it's imperative that you keep them in order. Some are color black, some are silver, so it's easier to keep some of them in order, but others not, so you need to find a way to remember where they go. I had one of those little screws fly off, but I happened to find it. They're really small, so they're hard to find. We'll go ahead and disconnect the force touch there and remove the screws to the microphone. There's two cables that need to be replaced. It's basically the microphone flex cable and the display flex cable. And each one of those is soldered on, and here under this little black sticker, there are 4 solder joints that we're going to need to desolder. So I'll take a little bit of flux, my tweezers, and giving it a little bit of tension there. It'll pull away as I heat up the solder. They'll each just fall away. They'll spring back to where they were before. We'll lift the Taptic engine out of there. We'll disconnect the antenna here and remove it. There's a little bit of foam sticker there that I like to keep in good condition so that the flex cables don't rub against the frame. We'll remove the last screw that's hard to get at for the crown there, and the last screws for the power button. Now down under the crown there's a little piece that's a little hard to get out. You'll see me struggling to get it in and out. I'll add some alcohol to the bottom to help loosen the adhesive that's holding down the little logic board in here. Now inside the Series 1, each one of these boards comes out slightly differently because the amount of the adhesive that was used to glue, like the external charging unit, it varied depending on I guess who was working on it at the time, because sometimes these flex cables on the bottom side can literally just tear off as you lift it up. So using a little bit of alcohol will help loosen hopefully any adhesive as you carefully pull it up. Carefully making sure to not damage any of the other cables that we do not have to replace. I'll lift it up, moving each one in and out until it finally gives up and lets go and pulls away all that adhesive.
If you're in need of a repair, you can send it in to our depot where we'll be able to take care of it.
There's a link in the description below.
We repair every single model of Apple Watch along with other advanced repairs in the industry. And now back to the video.
There's a couple connectors on the bottom. There's one that has a little latch like on the Series 2, 3, and 4 display connectors. And then there are 2 solder points that we will desolder here in a minute. Here I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol on the sticker here so we can remove it to see the solder joints for the display and touch flex cable. And we'll also be replacing the microphone flex cable, so we'll remove the sticker that's covering up that joint as well. I'm going to clear away some of the glue that's covering up these solder joints, these two solder joints for these two wires, making sure I know which wire goes where. In this case, what I'll do is I'll bend the first wire, knowing that it's on the right side and that it's bent. I'll just have to remember that and desolder the other one. That way we've completely removed the logic board from the frame. Add some flux to each one of those connectors. I like to add a little bit of solder to help loosen up these joints. Now Apple really skimped on the amount of solder used. These cables can literally almost be torn off the board and all the pads will stay there. They're so weak that even just a little bit of a heat will pull this off. You'll notice as my iron gets across to the other side, it comes off even before I get to like the last 6 or 7 joints. Add some flux and clean up the solder, making a little pillows of each solder joint there. And then we'll do the same thing to the next connector. We'll add a little bit of solder to the iron tip and move along it. Sorry, my finger gets in the way here. I didn't realize it was in the way while I was recording, but it's the same thing it's done before. Add some more flux and clean up each one of those joints as well, making sure that the solder is equally distributed amongst all of the connectors, all those connection points. We'll take some alcohol and a Q-tip and clean up those joints there. Here we've got the microphone unit. Let's pull it off of its little frame that it goes on to, so that we can reuse that frame on the new cable. Pull away the old adhesive and stick down that connector there for the force touch. We'll pull off the sticker that's covering the adhesive there, and on the side you've got these little 2 window guides that will line up with those guides on the board. We do happen to have some adhesive from the old connector in the way, so we'll clean that away. Make it nice and shiny. We'll line up those windows there and push down and let the adhesive stick and hold itself down. It'll take our soldering iron with a little bit more flux, and we're going to flow the solder through each one of those solder joints. And again, sorry for this being slightly out of frame. We'll clean that up with a little bit of alcohol and do the same thing on the other connector. We'll cover it up with the sticker that we pulled off from before. Now that it's cleaned and aligned, we'll add some flux there and tack down each side so that it doesn't slip off and fall as we're trying to solder it. Then we'll go around and each one will tap and flow the solder through from below to above the connector. I do this under my microscope and I can see the solder coming up and through. That way I know that the solder is making a good joint on every single one of those solder points. Going over it a couple of times will ensure that I have done it properly. We'll clean that up with a little bit of alcohol and a Q-tip, and then cover up those joints with the same sticker that we pulled off from before. Then there is one other cable that's soldered to the bottom, and due to the fact that these joints are so weak, and we did tug at this cable a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and reinforce each one of those joints just to make sure that we don't have any issues in the future, or that we didn't cause any issues that we would have to take it back out to fix. This is more of a precautionary measure, but at the same time I wish Apple wouldn't have skimped on the amount of solder used on these joints. Once I'm satisfied, we'll go ahead and clean it up with a little bit of alcohol and Q-tip and put that sticker back down. Now we'll go through the tedious process of putting it all back together, soldering on those two little wires, reconnecting that the external charging unit down there at the bottom, and then carefully working all the cables around and the board back in. I made a speed through this real fast. When you see the board come out, you're basically reversing it as you go back in. Now we'll put back all the screws that we can. Keep making sure that we put the screws back that go under things first. Put the Taptic engine back in after cleaning up the old adhesive residue there. Screw that down. Get everything nice and tight, get all the screws back in, get those soldered back on, put the sticker back over that, and then get their new battery and connect it to the battery connector, which is also on the same flex cable for the microphone that we soldered on earlier. Center that battery and we'll connect the display. Test it. Looks like it needs to be charged, so we'll plug it in. As you can see, it does recognize the charger. And one way you know that it'll be charging is when you take it off the charger, the lightning symbol goes from green to red. That way you know the battery's still powering the device when it's not on. We'll just wait for this to charge up, and in the meantime we can put the clip back on. If everything tests well, we'll just need to seal it back down, and this watch is all fixed.
And now, as you can see, the watch is working, the touch is perfect, the display as well. Everything works perfectly on it. Now we just need to seal it up and get it ready to ship back to the customer. Now again, if you're in need of a repair, go ahead and send it on in. There's a link in the description if you'd like for us to repair it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.